Hello, everyone. It's that time of year again. Award season is upon us. This, as you know, is the best award show around if you're listening to this.
Easily.
Normally, we are a music and movies podcast, but if we gave movie awards this year, it would all basically, at least for me, go to Dune Part 2, because that was like really the only movie that I got around to seeing that I was like, wow, that's actually pretty good. So maybe next year we'll throw in more movie categories, but we got a lot of music this year. And there's so much music this year that I don't even feel bad just dedicating a whole show to it. You know how we do things. Maybe you don't, actually. Most people probably don't. If you listened last year, the way we do things is we both have lists here. We have some special guests. They'll be joining us later with their own lists as well. We have a handful of categories, and we have 2 nominees, or 2 honorable mentions, you might call them, and then a winner. And then after we present our individual award, we have a little discussion, see if there's one that we agree is the overall best that we want to give it to together, or if we need to have a couple co-winners, because sometimes you can't just give it to one person. There's too much good stuff out there.
Agreed.
So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump in to our first category here. These artists are always just underappreciated, never given enough light for how much talent and ability they have. So we decided to put this category first. Most underrated artist. The most underrated artist of the year. Oh, and by the way, we're not doing best album or best song categories because we have full episodes for that. So if you want to go check that out, go listen to those.
Boom.
Most underrated artist. I love this category because I love looking for music that's new to me and that isn't just what everybody else is listening to, and trying to find that talent that is just maybe not as appreciated, despite the fact that it is as talented as some of the best out there. So my first honorable mention here is a group that I came across this year called, I better double check before I butcher the pronunciation of this name. So let me actually go to my other nominee first while I go over this. My first nominee here is an artist that gets respect and is recognized as great, but does not receive the mainstream attention that other artists of their caliber do, despite the fact that they are at times better than who we consider the best. And it's Benny the Butcher, Buffalo rapper. He's put out a fantastic project this year, and realistically has put out several fantastic projects over the last few years. Great lyricist, great production choices, and yet I feel like he always flies under that mainstream top rappers of the year radar. So I wanted to include him here. I did double check to make sure I pronounced this name right. It's Wonder Horse is the name of the group.
Got it.
Alternative rock, kind of a soft rock style, but really, really love their album Midas this year. A lot of fun stuff. Different sound than what I listen to a lot of, and different sound than maybe what you hear in the mainstream a lot. But overall, really enjoyed their project. But my winner, an artist that has been growing on me over the last probably 3 or 4 years, and dropped a great project this year, even though it's also getting overlooked, was 070 Shake with her project Petrichor this year. Love her vocals, love her production style, and just love the way she bends genres. I think is a great artist.
Yeah, solid choices. So I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but especially with our song list, I feel like my palette of music has finally at least gotten to a solid, respectable range.
It's not just your artists aren't Logic, NF, and Eminem anymore.
Exactly.
You have a few more.
Exactly. So we're cooking. We're in our bag now.
Travis Scott's in the mix. We got a lot of diversity there.
Who was Playboy Cardi, right?
Yeah, Playboy Cardi. He's on the list. Crazy.
We're cooking.
Yeah.
So I continue now to try to find a couple different sounds that maybe I do enjoy, maybe I do come back.
Right.
So one of the I don't know if they're now considered underrated, but I'm gonna throw them in there, and that's JPEG Mafia.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The production is absolutely wild from them all the time. You don't hear much like it, if any. I love the way that they mix their vocals. I love the ad-libs. They're very hectic and chaotic, and in this album that they dropped this year, at times are mellow and like softer.
Yeah.
Cool two different sides to see rather than just scaring the hoes.
Right.
So I had to throw them in there. Another one that this is the first I've ever heard of them was this year. You threw me the album.
Yeah.
Gary Clark Jr., JPEG Raw.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful album. I'm not huge into rock. The album's labeled rock. There's definitely some influence of pop and
blues.
Right, like there's definitely a variety of different genres in it.
Yeah.
But he has this unique, distinct vocal about him where it's like, this is gonna sound disrespectful, but like it's like, are you good or are you not? But like, I think he is. So it's not supposed to be disrespectful. Yeah. It's like Nicolas Cage, right? So,
or maybe like in a more professional description, outside the mainstream that you would consider great vocalists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
But I like your description better. So.
Nicolas Cage. Yeah. Thank you. I feel like hanging out around you, just things start popping into my head. Yeah. I just have to say them. So. My number one, my winner. Somebody who will probably be in other categories, but I sent this album to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And nobody reacted how I thought they'd react.
Yeah.
Because I loved this project. Yeah. I'm not an R&B guy. I think R&B all sounds the exact same.
Why?
I know.
Yeah.
Maybe I just haven't heard good R&B.
I don't think you've listened to enough of it.
That might also be the case. That's a good point. So I'm giving it to Kenya Vaughn.
Okay.
The Honeymoon Phase.
Yeah.
It was her first album dropped, and I just think she absolutely blew it out of the water. Yeah. The lyrics are really good. It's just such a good album, and I think it will always be underrated until she makes mainstream. I hope she does, and I can't wait for more stuff from her.
Yeah.
So.
And I can't really fault you with that pick. And with this most underrated artist category, I do feel like we have to just go co-winners on this one, because it's like, how do you say one artist is more deserving when you're talking about artists that deserve more than they've been given? So I say we go ahead and move on with co-winners there. Our next category right now is going to be for Best Rapper. Crazy year for hip-hop music. Lots of great artists. With this category and with a lot of other categories, I was, well, at least when we've come up with this category specifically, I'll say, I was very deliberate to say best rapper and not like best lyricist, best hip hop artist. Best rapper, I feel like you can go a lot of different directions with.
Absolutely.
And not that one is necessarily inherently better or worse than the other. Leaving it a little bit open to our own interpretation, because I know we value a little bit different things when we come to hip hop music.
Absolutely.
This year, I did go with a lot of lyricists, though. Honorable mention here I have is Vince Staples. Finally getting a lot of recognition for this Dark Times project, despite being on one of the best album runs in recent years.
Sorry.
Bless you. Anyways, he also appeared on quite a few interesting features. Great feature on JPEG Mafia's album. Showed up on the Kehlani project, sounding great. Overall, I think he's a really underrated rapper. Really good. He has a very unique avenue, and he does really well in that. Going forward to my next one, making another appearance is Benny the Butcher. Great year for Benny the Butcher. I don't know if you know this. Not one project, not two projects, 3 albums dropped this year.
Are you serious?
Yeah, dead serious. Not all of them are in my top albums list, that's for sure. But nonetheless, putting out that quantity of music and not having it sound like NBA YoungBoy quality is crazy.
So they were solid projects.
Decent projects, I'll at least say.
Okay.
Everybody Can't Go is fantastic. Great project from earlier this year. But then he's got a lot of I think it's called Summertime 24, which is like a fun hip hop East Coast summertime vibe that you're just like, you're not going to go to it for like a specific like album of the year content, but it's like, this is just cool. It's fun. It's East Coast vibes. And then he's got another collab project. Showed up on a ton of Griselda features for people like West Side Gun and all those other artists throughout the year. So just making a lot of appearances, sounding great on pretty much everything he was on, and putting out an album that I definitely feel like is up there as one of the better hip hop projects this year. But overall, it's his year. You have to give it to him. Kendrick Lamar was my winner. GNX is fantastic. He's performing at the Super Bowl. Biggest moment in hip hop with the Drake beef in a long time.
Since Pusha T and Drake.
Probably,
that's the last one I remember.
Yeah. And just sounding absolutely fantastic on everything he was on, reminding people actually how good he is when people were like, okay, Mr. Morale, I don't really know how I feel about this. And he's like, you want the replay value? I'll give you the replay value. Just so you know, I can give it to you anytime I want to. In his words, sometimes you got to pop out and show people.
Exactly. So, right.
Those are my picks.
Those are solid picks, and I can't knock any of them. Except I knock all... No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
So, my first honorable goes to somebody who's only done a couple singles.
Yeah.
But...
man, were they good.
Am I ready for more?
Okay.
And that's Chance the Rapper.
Yeah.
I got to give it to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
great.
He's hungry. He wants it.
Yeah.
Back against the wall.
And he's swinging.
He's
swinging. Yeah.
He's going to go nuts, and that's all I hope that he does do.
Absolutely.
I pray that the album
lives up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he's not the winner. But still, a couple singles blew them out of the water.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Another one where it's J. Cole. He dropped My Delete Later.
Okay. Yeah. Can't knock that one either.
He's the feature man. He is...
Does,
he's one of the best.
Does Grippy make
okay,
a case
listen
that is that why he's not the winner?
No.
Okay.
Mainly because I blocked that song out of existence, and I continually forget that it happened.
Yeah. As you should. As we all should.
Right. Look, we all have moments of weakness. Everyone has it in the industry. I've heard some absolutely horrendous songs from the greatest of greats.
Oh, yeah.
So
they'll have them.
Exactly. So J. Cole, welcome to the club. You know what I mean? So
sure.
He did what he does. It feels like consecutively every year now. He kills a feature or two. It helped that he dropped Might Delete Later, especially in the mix of the beef. Something that I don't think anybody really expected.
Yeah.
Solid project. Am I going to say it's one of his best? No, but we got some cool songs.
Yeah.
But I do agree. It's got to go to Kendrick. Yeah. The flow is immaculate. The lyrical aspect is great. The producing side is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Feature choice, could have been better, but that's not Kendrick.
Yeah.
So we're giving it to Kendrick.
And as it should be. Like I said, it's his year.
Right.
We're just part of it.
Yeah.
We're not even part of it.
Not even a little bit.
Moving into our next category here, showing some love to the ladies. Mm-hmm. Best female vocalist. Truth be told, I think there was a lot, like, aside from the great hip hop we've got this year, I also feel like this was like a great year for women's pop artists. If that makes sense.
I can agree.
You know, we're not the biggest fans. Big Taylor Swift album drops, though. Sabrina Carpenter has a lot of noise. Again, not our taste. That's fine.
Yeah.
But just numbers-wise, appearance-wise, there's so many great female pop artists making great pop music. I had to give a quick shout-out to a couple of them here.
Yeah.
The first one, not an artist that I personally have enjoyed a lot. Their album didn't make my best albums of the year list, but I had a lot of respect for the project and I really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. It was Billie Eilish. I think she's a very unique vocalist. Again, not my favorite project of the year, just personal taste-wise, but I think vocally she's very unique and had a great performance on that project.
Yeah.
Next up, I'm glad this artist's having a little bit of a moment this year. Although I don't know if you're aware of them because it's not really your style of music. Yeah. It's Megan Moroney from the country genre.
Heard of her.
Yeah.
Might have heard a song or two.
Yeah, she was an artist that I was considering for Best New Artist last year, but ultimately didn't just love enough of the content. But her album this year came out, Am I Okay? Really enjoyed it top to bottom, really bringing kind of this young pop country flair with a lot of like, I don't know, attitude, if you want to call it that. Yeah. Well, I don't know the best way to describe it, but reminding me of like an early Carrie Underwood or an early Taylor Swift, just that style of like fun pop country, like just unapologetically being like, I don't really care how you receive this. I don't care. Like, I know some of this is immature. I don't really care.
Yeah.
A lot of fun music, but she sounds vocally really good on everything that she was on this year. But overall, I didn't know that I had this pick in me. It's Beyonce. I gave it to Beyonce for her performance on Cowboy Carter. I loved hearing her vocal work specifically on that album, which is why I gave her this award. Because, like I said, I'm not the biggest Beyonce artist personally, or Beyonce fan personally. I'm not the artist, but whatever. But ultimately, her vocal performance on tracks like Blackbird, on 16 Carriages, on Two Most Wanted, Levi's Jeans, there's just so many tracks on there that I was like, her voice sounds great. And so that's where I went with my pick this year.
So, because it's an award show, you had to thank Beyonce? Sorry, I had to for the one time. It was just lined up so perfectly. It wasn't planned.
Listen. I'm not in this Illuminati thing. I can say Beyonce sucks when she sucks.
Shut up.
If I get assassinated, it's the Beyonce people. No, there's tracks on Cowboy Carter where I'm like, really Beyonce? Agree. Are you like Thanos? No, stop. But she sounds great on too much of it to be like, no.
No, I can agree. Just I had to throw in.
Fair enough.
Great picks.
Yeah.
All around.
Thank you.
Nonetheless. I do agree with somebody. Also had to mention them. That is Billie Eilish. I don't know how she does it, because like an airy vocal is hard to do.
Oh yeah.
And to be able to control that and hold it out and do it for as long as even like 2.5 minutes is the average length of a song. To do it for that long is ridiculous. So the talent is unmatched. She's incredible at what she does. I wasn't able to listen to the full album, but I was able to hear a couple songs.
Enough.
And it's not for me.
It's not what you come back to.
Exactly. But I can still
appreciate it.
Exactly. Yeah. Great vocalist. Second one, Kenya Vaughn again.
Sure.
Killed it.
Yeah.
I can hear it in my head. It's one of those voices where you can think of one of the artist's songs and just start thinking of the lyrics and how they're performing it. She's one of those people that her voice, like, I can hear her performing the song.
Yeah.
But I went a different route.
Okay.
An album that came out early this year.
Sure.
One that I haven't heard get brought up since it came out. Was it a great album?
Okay.
More or less. But Ariana Grande. Because not only on Eternal... is it Eternal Sunshine?
I think so.
I think that's what the title is.
It was so forgettable, I forgot the title.
Yeah.
But I hear you.
But she sounds great. And then on top of that, her being in Wicked, yes, I heard the soundtrack. Love it. She does great. Like, she will forever always be one of those people where I can't say anything bad or much wrong about her range and just how she does it. So I went Ariana. I had to give her respect.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. Like I said, I can't really fault you for that pick because she does have one of the craziest vocal talents and ranges. Do you feel like we need to split this one up? I feel
like we might.
We're too different. I feel like. I also feel like you're too paranoid to like give it to Beyonce.
I'm not actually paranoid.
No,
I think. I think with who we both said.
Yeah.
They're both very different, vocally incredible ladies.
And there's some strengths for both of them. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind any route.
I say we split it up. Cool. Co-winners for this category here
Thank you, Beyonce.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry. I can't stop.
We're going to get to male vocalist in a little bit, but we do have a special guest that's going to be joining us a little bit later for that one. So we're going to go to a different direction here and move into a couple album categories, starting off with Best Experimental Album. Always an interesting category when you're looking for music that's like, I've never heard anything like this before, but I like it for some reason.
Yeah.
I'll start off with an honorable mention here. For me, it's Ballet Through Mud by RZA. Originally Wu-Tang, right? You know RZA from Wu-Tang. But composed a symphony.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And it's actually a good listen. Like the storytelling musically throughout it, the emotions it evokes, very interesting to hear him do something like that. Now, I will say the reason it's not any higher for me is because I've heard classical music before. I've heard symphonies. I've heard all this stuff. So it's not really like experimental as an album sound, but certainly experimental in terms of how genre bending the performance is, almost like the Andre 3000 record from last year. Very similar. But
Question.
really, yeah.
Does that album have any lyrics to it? Okay, because you sent me that one to give it a listen. Like, this might not hit your radar, like,
Yeah.
and it pissed me off.
You're like, there's nothing in here.
I was like,
yeah, no, he composed a symphony.
I was like,
though.
what am I
That's
listening
crazy.
to? Yeah, no, on that end, it's dope.
Yeah.
But I was like,
Yeah.
what did he send me?
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah, no, it's... anyways.
It is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going up to my next pick here, an album that I really, really like. Was blown away with how much I liked it. Oh my gosh. I'm going to forget the actual name of this album because I just wrote down the artist's name.
Womp womp.
It's the new Jean-Baptiste record, and it's titled, hold on, Beethoven Blues.
Oh.
Beethoven Blues by Jean-Baptiste. He essentially here takes all these classical Beethoven songs that you know, that you've heard a million times, and essentially has, I don't know if he's done it live, I would assume it's done live based on the performance sound, but as he's playing these songs on the piano, again, no lyrics on this one, remixes them with blues piano infusions.
That's dope.
It's so crazy to listen to
That's dope.
that you're just, like, I'm entranced when I listen. I'm like, oh my gosh, this
Yeah.
is the coolest thing I've ever heard on a piano. Anyways, love that project a lot. But overall, I did give it to a very different album here than that. And it's I Lay Down My Life for You, JPEG Mafia. The rock, metal, rap, yeah. Polar opposites, I
so
know.
far off.
So far different than the first two picks. But, like,
Yeah.
I remember listening to that and just being like, this is not hip-hop, and yet it is.
Yeah.
And it's, like, fantastic.
Yeah.
And half the time, not half the time, 99% of the time when a hip-hop artist puts a guitar in a track, it's kind of like, who garage band this guitar guitar riff together?
Yeah.
But no, this one's actually, you're listening to it, you're like, holy crap, this is
nuts.
it kind of goes
It's
hard.
nuts.
So that's my winner for best experimental album.
It's a great choice.
Yeah.
So I don't listen to classical music.
You don't listen to piano ballads.
No.
So those two weren't on the
No,
list.
no. They were close. They
Okay.
I can't even say that with a straight face. No. It puts me to sleep. It's beautiful. Well, I'm you know. Anyways, it's beautiful. I can respect it for what it is.
Sure.
Anyways, first one I will mention is Bad Cameo.
Oh yeah.
Lil Yachty, James Blake.
Mm-hmm.
Lil Yachty's kind of the reason I'm accepting of experimental music. With his last one, whatever that one was called.
Yeah. I was tipping my tongue.
Yeah,
but
I was enjoying it. And
let's start here. That's
Thank
what it's
you.
called. Yeah.
So, because of Lil Yachty, I was able to kind of accept this idea of
Something different.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Enjoyed it. There were a couple songs that I came back to throughout the year. I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah.
My second is JPEG Mafia, Lay Down My Life for You.
Okay.
It's just so wild.
Yeah.
It's just so chaotic. I've already said it before. Chaotic, mellow at times, yada yada. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
here's going to be a little shock for you.
Okay.
You showed me this artist once upon a time, and I was like, what the heck did you just send me? This is awful.
But now you're into it.
And now I'm into it. I don't know how to say the album name, but 070 Shake.
Petrichor.
That one.
Yeah.
It was dope.
It is dope.
It's dope.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying her vocals a lot. I love, you explained it as like this cinematic kind of like masterpiece of like one of the songs at least. But like,
Yeah.
I can
It's
see
like
now-
listening to a movie in 3 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's so good at, yeah. Very good album.
Yeah.
It won't make the top 10, but
Sure.
it was super good. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
For sure.
Might have to go to JPEG though.
Okay. I mean, I like the honorable mention of Petrichor. That was also on my list that I was considering. So we'll throw her up there as well. But I think JPEG Mafia, very interesting album.
Absolutely.
There. Going into our next album category, your personal favorite.
It's
on the
my
show.
favorite.
You're always looking forward to this category when we do reviews. It is best concept album. We actually got a few concept albums this year, which I feel like it's been a while since we've gotten a few. I did want to give a nominee, as much as I have not the nicest things always to say about it, to The Death of Slim Shady. I think the concept's interesting. I think the skits and the track performance, as far as how it plays into the concept, is interesting. It makes for a very unique Eminem style listen, which I appreciated a lot. Ultimately, the reason it's not any higher is it's a little corny how, like, he's like, oh, everybody hates me, they want to cancel me, I'm going to cancel myself. It's like, okay, guy, like, hold on, let's settle down just a little bit. Like, we're not that far. But I'll digress. Moving on. An artist that, truthfully, I thought their best days were behind them. I still kind of feel that way, maybe, but I feel less like that. It's Logic with Ultra 85.
Wow.
I really, really loved hearing him get back into a concept storytelling bag, using the crazy music to help further and propel that story. It's almost like I heard someone describe, like, I haven't seen Wicked yet, so, like, you know, call me out for that if you will. Whatever. I'm getting there. I heard someone like describe the reason they loved it so much is because the music from the movie furthers the story.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of musicals, it's like, let's cut the movie, sing a song about this instant, and then progress the movie. I feel like Logic uses these songs to accentuate the skits and story that he's telling to the point where it doesn't feel like you're listening to a bunch of skits with like random songs. Anyways, really enjoyed listening to Ultra 85. It was a lot of fun. But my winner, one of the craziest concept albums that you actually have to kind of dive into it quite a bit to really appreciate it. Samurai by Lupe Fiasco. Taking the idea of a parallel universe almost where Amy Winehouse is a battle rapper based on a quote that she once said, where she's in an interview where she was like, sometimes when I'm writing, I feel like a samurai, like a battle rapper. And Lupe Fiasco stretched that quote out into an entire album idea about her being a rapper, rapping from that perspective, rapping about that perspective. Is so crazy, top to bottom. I love that album a lot. Wow. So I had to give it to that one for the best concept album because he didn't have to he didn't want to force feed you like, here's the story. Yeah. He's like, no, I'm going to tell the story, and if you pick it up, if you want to look into it, that's cool. Yeah. And I love that about it.
I respect it. Maybe we should have reviewed that album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't know the concept. big surprise. You know? And then also with the Logic, with Ultra 85, I think what's really cool about like the skits and everything is it's an extended, it's like a part 2 to The Incredible True Story.
Right. And everybody.
Yeah, like... Yeah. So The Incredible True Story is one of my favorite albums.
Sure.
Boom.
Yeah.
One of my favorite albums. Yeah. It's a great storytelling concept. Basically, what I'm getting at is, I agree. Like, he did so well back then with exactly what you said. Mm-hmm. So to be able to tap right back into that and give us Ultra 85, I love it. So just had to kind of piggyback on that. So concept albums. I'm terrible at it, but luckily somebody was able to help me out a little bit when it came to that. So with my first one, I will also give it to Mr. Eminem himself. I do love the idea, and even though he thinks it's, Eminem is the death of Slim Shady, I like the album, and I'll stand on that. I think there's some solid songs in there. Do I think it's his best? No. Do I think it's close to some of his best works? No.
That's all I think we're saying the same thing. I think you're just I think you value that a lot more than I do. Like, anyways, that's a whole
anyways.
I'm not trying to say there's no good songs.
No.
Okay. That's all I had to get out there.
I'm exaggerating a little bit. No, but I do agree. I think the idea of killing his past self, this version who was psychotic and hated everybody, everything, including himself, right?
Yeah.
Cool little idea. There are times where it could have been executed better. I do think he goes a little over the top. Sure. Everybody wants to cancel me. I'm going to cancel myself. I think I saw like within a 2-month period, like 2 years ago, everybody was trying to cancel M because they just found his old music.
And by everybody, you mean like a handful of like TikTokers.
Yeah, basically.
Most of us were like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, kind of, what's the saying? Molehill, mountain, anthill.
Make a mountain out of a molehill.
That's the one. Yeah. Thank you. Moving on, we got Dark Times, Vince Stable as my second honorable mention.
Okay.
A lot of people lately have been talking about like their struggles and going through like this whole story. We see it from Tyler, we see it from Jelly Roll, we've seen it from Kendrick and all these people. I feel like Vince did a really good job keeping it together. Like I feel like you'll move here and like kind of get sidetracked and start talking about a little bit of outrageousness in one song and then come right back to like, this is happening, but now I'm at the club getting, I feel like he really dialed in
and he was like,
and locked down.
No, we're going with the basics.
This is how I feel.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going 100%. Through. So I respect that a lot. But my winner goes to Bando Stone and the New World.
Wow.
Yeah, it's because it's based off of, it's supposed to be this movie, right?
Yeah.
Is it an actual movie?
I think supposedly there's a trailer for it. I don't know if he's going to pull a 21 Savage and be like, it was all part of the rollout, but
that'll suck.
Supposedly it's a movie, yeah.
Artist, post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
He has no value now because...
all he can do is be an artist.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a funny idea.
Yeah.
The music that goes along with it and then the little skits within the album, I think are incredible. It's a fun album. Cool features, very different. Some not the best, but nonetheless, I thought it was super cool to do. Yeah. And I love Childish Gambino, so I gave it to him.
Wow, definitely one I was considering and not one that I thought would be on your list. We went in very different directions here. We only overlapped with The Death of Slim Shady, which I'm not going to bump up any higher than I have it. So maybe we go co-winners here with Samurai and Bando Stone. Mm-hmm. Moving into another similar-ish category here, talking more about storytelling ability. Best storytelling in a song. Interestingly enough, I only have one hip-hop song on here, which I feel like I normally...
So do I.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, very interesting.
Yeah, I went the same route.
I did want to shout out, not on my list, but Vince Staples with Justin, I thought is a hilarious song to listen to. The story's super funny. but not ultimately on my list for best. With one of my honorable mentions here, I went with Mexico by Post Malone and Billy Strings.
It's such a good song.
It's so funny to listen to, and like
so
the
funny.
progression of the story is absolutely hilarious and outrageous, and I love it.
It's such a Post Malone song.
Yes, 100%. But ultimately, the funny value only takes you so far for me in the storytelling, so I did have to go a little bit more serious in certain areas. And one of those being Reincarnated by Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, Stargazer. Yeah.
No, not that one.
No, I know, but whenever I hear just Reincarnated, that's the first thing I think. Solid, great song.
Yeah, but a very good song, very interesting storytelling perspective. Ultimately, it can't really be higher for me because I have personally felt like I've heard that very specific, similar idea expressed before in a hip hop song. It reminds me a lot of Everybody by Logic, the album.
Yeah.
Which was more fleshed out than just this song.
Right.
But it's very well done. It's very interesting listen and very personal for Kendrick. So I like that a lot. But my winner, I did give it to 16 Carriages by Beyonce.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not one. Anyways.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Beyonce. Oh, I gotta thank Beyonce.
Yeah,
Hold up.
You're taking it over the top.
No.
You already think.
Listen. I've never really been a Beyonce fan like that.
Yeah.
I appreciate some of the music here and there. But hearing her describe her life and her story the way she does on this song is so interesting to me that it made me... It was one of those... Similar to how I described 070 Shake's song to you, it made me feel like I was like watching a movie about her life. Yeah. And like the way filmmakers are able to use different aspects of things to remind you of scenes from earlier in the movie. That song felt that way to me, and that she was like tying things together in such an interesting way. Yeah. As to like the hardships she started out facing in her career, despite them being are these same hardships that she faces now, despite the fact that everything's changed. Yeah. And like the fact that she has to be on the road so much and away from her family and torn away from her family to go out on tour and make music and all this stuff. Initially at such a young age, how hard that was for her to start out her career that way. And then to be able to have all the freedom and all the money and do everything that she could ever want now. And yet that's still the hardest part, is that this music tears her away from her family and having to be gone so much. I found myself really interested in the story she was telling.
Yeah,
so I really
absolutely. I should have maybe read the lyrics, because every time I've listened to that song, I just play it, and I'm not really paying attention. So then it's gotten annoying to me.
Okay.
So maybe I'll go back,
give it a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, I'll say this, I don't hate that album. It's just, it's a solid album.
Sure.
Just gonna say that out there. Anyway, so kind of the exact same thing. One hip hop song, and then the other or whatever. My first honorable mention is going to be Temporary by M and Skylar Grey.
Okay.
Just like going back and seeing what he did instead of like being with his daughters and like hardships.
Like what could have been if things had gone differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Super sad. Yeah. All of these are like very like real songs. Like,
yeah.
Because these are the ones that hit me the hardest. That's where I kind of went with this.
And you're not laughing about that to the listeners. No. Something funny just
something happened.
Yeah.
Something happened. Yeah. My second one is, it could have been a couple songs, but I think this was the best told. Winning Streak by Jelly Roll.
Really good.
Just being that vulnerable, not only to put yourself into rehab and like these AA meetings, but to like put it out as a song too and do good about it. Like, incredible, very vulnerable, loved it. Yeah. The one that I'm going to give it to is Post Malone, Yours.
Yeah. I considered it.
It's just such a beautiful song, and like it's cool to see his party days behind him, and like he's got this whole 180 perspective, like this is my baby girl. Like we've talked about it. If you want the fullness of what we talked about, it's there. But I had to give it to that one.
Absolutely. Honestly, I do feel like I can jump on there and give that one our overall winner because of how much I enjoyed it. It absolutely was one that I was considering for this category as well.
Yeah.
And just because I don't want to have it out there that like, oh, I had to thank Beyonce. Let's give it to Post Malone here, and we'll put Beyonce as a nominee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, next up, we've got some very special guests joining us for a few categories. So let's go ahead and jump into those.
Absolutely.
All right, here for our next category, we got a very special guest to help us present for Best Male Vocalist. Our resident favorite country star blessed us with his presence earlier this year on an episode. We have Tommy Acker with us in the building. Thanks for joining us, Tommy. We're excited.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
All right. Well, Best Male Vocalist is an interesting category for me because I feel like every year, if I wanted to, I could just give it to like Adam Levine or The Weeknd because of their vocal range. But I'm always looking for an artist who does just a little bit something different, not necessarily like crazy vocals per se, although that definitely plays into it, but like something that's outside of the mainstream, just bringing a new sound for male vocalists and changing the landscape of what we think of when we think of male singers and vocalists. So I do have a couple of honorable mentions here. My first one, he's kind of been a staple in this category for me because he's got such a unique voice and because he does have such a crazy range. This year he had a great project that I loved a lot. It's Don Toliver. His album Hearthstone Psycho was pretty crazy. Such a unique voice, such an interesting style to him, and always is, I feel like, switching things up when it comes to his style that just continually makes me interested as to what he's going to bring to the table vocally.
Yeah.
Next up, he actually won my best underrated or most underrated artist last year. It's Blast, BLXST. His album this year, I believe it was called I'll Always Come Find You, was just incredible vocally, definitely bringing like a lot more of this melodic pop soul style to hip hop and R&B, which I've heard a lot of female artists do in the past a lot, but it's been a long time since I've heard a male artist really bring that soul style into the genre. So I really enjoyed that one. But my winner for this year might be a basic pick. He's always got great vocals on everything he's on. But hearing him in a little bit of a different style this year just made me really stoked about his voice in particular. I did give it to Post Malone. F1 Trillion, he sounded great on. Hearing him do something country. The album as a whole isn't like a perfect album necessarily, right, but vocally I think he sounds fantastic on it. Hearing him with such little auto-tune and still being able to just kill it, that was ultimately what I went with. But let me pass it over to J-Mac. What caught your ear this year?
Yeah, so I don't go and look for anybody outside of the mainstream. That's not necessarily true. But this year, their vocals killed it. One of my honorable mentions, we have him on this episode, but Jonah Park. Look, I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. He kills it. He has a great range. He has a great voice. Didn't really drop much. He did drop a couple things this year, but underrated. You haven't heard him? Go look him up. He's great. Another honorable mention, the Kid Laroi. Can always count on him to come with some killer vocals. Not only that, but like in his song, like Baby I'm Back, like, yeah, he's still singing and like very good melodically, but like adds a little bit of pace to it, almost this melodic rap. So like to hear him go kind of back to that, I like hearing that. My winner, I will agree, it is Post Malone, F1 Trillion. And I agree, hearing him without so much auto-tune and still being able to belt out these country songs and even being able to go hand in hand with a lot of these country greats, like incredible to hear, meshed really well with everybody, so I had to give it to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tommy, let's pass it over to you. Who'd you like?
Yeah, first off, thank y'all for having me on again. I think, I mean, being country, I'm kind of more, I might be a little biased over here, but but I tried to pick guys that were like a little less I mean, one of them is pretty well known, but a little less known, gets a little less attention because you obviously have like guys like Chris Stapleton who can sing anything. But
Yeah.
first honorable mention is a guy named Matt Schuster. He's kind of like he's more on the countryside, but he's also, I mean, dude, he could fall into R&B, he could fall into pop. Like he's got just amazing vocals, can get way up there, got a great vibrato. Dude, he's killing it. Second guy is just taking country music by storm, but Zach Top. Second honorable mention there. He just great control, just very smooth, very just that classic. You could sit there and just listen to him sing. He's got a great voice.
Yeah.
My winner this year, I guess, is Teddy Swims. He, I think, just insane range, insane, like just got a good rasp to his voice. Like it's just crazy. Like you listen to it and you're like, holy crap, how does anybody sing that? Kind of similar to Chris Stapleton, I guess. But I recently discovered him this year and I was just like, geez, dude, he's crazy. He's so good.
Yeah. I'm with you. I've only heard a few songs from him this year was the first time that I heard him, but like you're saying, super crazy vocalist, definitely underrated, hopefully like is getting some more attention in the mainstream now. It looks like I think he just dropped with Quavo and Luke Bryan, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, yep. Crazy song, by the way. It's actually not half bad. But funny story about Zach Top, actually. My younger brother is a big country music fan, and we were talking about who our 4 greatest country music artists of all time were, and he included Johnny Cash, George Strait, Hank Williams Jr., and Zach Top already. So
wow.
Yeah, crazy. But I mean, a big reason that we invited you for this category specifically was because we did want a little bit of diversity. We review a lot of pop and hip hop, a little bit of country and rock on the episodes here, but we wanted to get some more diversity and incorporate some other stylistic opinions and that kind of thing. So honestly, I feel like with this category, I mean, obviously us both having Post Malone, but then Teddy Swims from you, I feel like we might have to give it to those two guys because it's just a little bit of different strokes, different styles. So, I mean, what do you think, Tommy?
I mean, I love the Post Malone pick. I think he's kind of showcased he can do hip hop, pop, rock, now country. Like he's kind of done it all. And putting out his new album this year is killer. So, I mean, if y'all want to rock with Post Malone, I think that's a solid pick.
All right. Well, maybe we'll have to go with Post Malone. He definitely, like you said, I mean, that was the main thing for me with picking him personally, is hearing him be able to do so many different styles. Is there's not a whole lot of artists that can do that wide of a range. Like even if you have somebody like Drake who can do some R&B and some pop, and even do those really, really well, hearing Drake on a country song, I don't know how well that would go, but
it wouldn't.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe we'll go with Post Malone for this one, and wrap up the best male vocalist category. But before we let you go, Tommy, to be honest, this was only half the reason that we brought you on the episode for this award show this year. We also wanted to move into our next category real quick and give our award for best new artist, and we actually wanted to give that one to you for all of the stuff that you've done musically this year. The singles that have come out have sounded great. We think there's a lot of promise for your career. It's awesome to see you getting a little bit of recognition for all that kind of stuff. So we're really happy for you for all the musical stuff that you're doing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. That's awesome. I mean, they say, like, I guess the new trend is the bingo card. I did not have that in my bingo card this year, but no, it's been crazy to go from basically ground zero to, I mean, I'm not anywhere crazy yet, but like, to go from zero to already having over, I mean, collectively over 2 million streams on all platforms. It's insane. And so a lot of love, a lot of support, a lot of growth has been made, and I'm excited for what's next to come.
Yeah, well, this award definitely doesn't come with just nothing from us. We don't just give out vocal awards like it's, that's the whole story here. we do actually have an award here somewhere for you. J-Mac's working on locating it right now. I'm gonna see if I can get it to him real quick, and then I'm going to actually just go over a couple more nominees real quick that I had for this category personally. I also wanted to give a shout out for Best New Artist for Doechii off of with her new project this year, Alligator Bites Never Heal. Super fantastic as far as rap goes. She sounded really great. Her storytelling's next level. Her voice is really cool. But ultimately, when you're signed to Kendrick Lamar and Top Dog Entertainment, it's not too hard to be the Best New Artist for that year. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to another Tommy. Tommy Richmond had a lot of great stuff come out this year. His new album, definitely a little rough around the edges, but $1 Million Baby, all that good stuff. Was a big year for him for sure. I just texted you as well. J-Mac. Cool. Let's see if we can find this. If not, we might just have to get it to you another time here.
No worries.
Well, it looks like we might be in trouble here. We can't find the award, which, tracks for us because we don't know what we're doing here. Essentially, here, actually, let's just do it this way. Yeah. Just see if you can just show him this award right here on the camera. We were going to share it with you, but we've got here a little certificate for you. We signed it and everything. Unfortunately, I don't have money for postage, so we're just going to send you the PDF if that's all right with you.
Hey, perfect. That works with me.
We'll find it eventually.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
Yeah. Well, all jokes aside, we've loved having you on this year. We're looking forward to what's to come for your career and everything, and it's awesome to see you getting some respect and people showing you love in those streaming numbers. So we're looking forward to hopefully the album. I don't know if we get a little tease from you right now. Or...
I think yeah. Well, I mean, we're always working. I think I don't really have a huge team yet, but everything has been pointing at just a bunch of singles. Just pumping out single after single. So hopefully I can get out maybe 6 to 8 songs this year.
That'd be awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
About to go and record in three more right now. So
awesome.
New music is coming, but
I love it.
Fantastic. We'll take what we can get, and we're looking forward to hearing it all. So congratulations, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep. All righty. We'll let you go, and we'll move on to the next category here.
Yep.
Sounds good. See y'all.
Alrighty, our next guest on the show is our resident expert when it comes to hip hop music that we have no idea what we're talking about.
Yep.
It's the good man, Asher Swiss. Thanks for joining us again. We always love having you.
What up, brother? Always fun to hop on.
Well, this category is one that we haven't done before. Mm-hmm. We brought it up early in the year where I was like, maybe this needs to be a category because we were debating bars. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Best bar of the year. There's not really a good criteria for this. I know you were asking me, Asher, like, how long are we counting for a bar? I say we just go for whatever counts. Like, as long as it's not the whole verse, I think we're good.
Yeah.
But man, crazy year for bars. Obviously with the Drake Kendrick thing, you got a whole lot there. And then just so many lyrical rappers dropping interesting projects this year. And making the lyrical game a little bit more interesting than it's been the past probably 5-6 years, I would say. But let me jump into a couple here, and start off with my first one. I didn't really go too far into the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef for a pick, because while I feel like there's some crazy bars in there, I don't know like how relatable they are beyond the beef, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like if you're not disrespecting Drake, I don't know how relatable some of the Kendrick bars are. Yeah. But I did go with one just because it was crazy. Every time I hear it, I'm like, the wordplay's phenomenal. He always sounds, I mean, first of all, he's always just got great lyrical content in general. But I think the wordplay here is fantastic. It is from Kendrick Lamar off of his feature on Like That. To conclude the verse, he wraps up with, For all your dogs getting buried, that's a K with all these nines. He's going to see Pet Cemetery. Love the layering, the wordplay. Super funny, super interesting, and just like really kicked everything off. So I felt like I could at least include it there. This next one, not really a whole lot of depth as far as like double meanings and all that crazy stuff. But one that I felt like was just kind of one of those ones where you hear it and you're like, oh my gosh, like I've never thought about something in that perspective. But like I don't know why I haven't, because it's so just like plain. It's Vince Staples off of his album Dark Times. He says, it's hard to sleep when you're the only one living the dream. And I was like, that's pretty crazy. I like that.
Whoa.
My number one overall pick, though, it's, I'm blanking on the name. Oh, it's off of the track Survive by Childish Gambino. And it's with my watching Bluey with my son like we both crip. I thought that was crazy. No, I'm just kidding. That one's hilarious, but it's not my winner.
I would have taken it. That would have worked.
That's not my overall winner, but I do find that bar absolutely
I'm surprised
hilarious.
that it's not. That's the only one I thought for sure you were going to have down there.
No, my real one, it's a little bit cheesy, but nonetheless, I find it great. And though I think this artist is cheesy sometimes, he's cheesy in a way that it's like, I can't even hate him for it. Like, it's just funny like that. It's J. Cole off of Crocodile Tears. He says, I'm Joaquin Phoenix, walk the line, I'm about cash. And I think that layering of the meanings is pretty hilarious and pretty fantastic. So that's what I went with for my picks. J-Mac, you told us you just have a winner. Who's your winner for this year?
So I only got one because I can't be remembering things like that. I just can't. But it is J. Cole off of Hunting Wabbits. It's just one that I heard, thought it was outlandish. I laughed about it, and I just laugh every time I hear it. But I drove to CVS, copped a Plan B, and watched as she swallowed B. I kid you not.
All right. That is one of them ones that will make you laugh.
The wordplay's there.
Yeah.
The wordplay's there, man.
All right, Asher, help us out, man. Help us out. We need some help in the category here.
Man. These are fire. They're cooking. When I don't know. When I like, there's so many albums that dropped, and there are also artists that dropped multiple albums, which was like weird to think about. Like I was thinking about a couple. I was like, man, this album, and I'm like going through, and I'm like, didn't he also drop like earlier? I was like, didn't he also drop like in March or April? So it was just like, it was weird to kind of go through multiple, but I've sectioned off a few. The criteria that I kind of went for is a bar that, obviously there's like double meanings or layerings or some kind of reference or whatever, and also like how it resides with the audience, or maybe like, it be a flex or whatever. So to start it off at number 3, my GOAT, Double O. So Cardi said on one of his unreleased songs, Evil Jordan, he says, fully loaded check, hold up baby Jordan paid, put duct tape on my switch, perfect aim, they can't put me no genre baby cause I changed the game. So first and foremost, Playboi Carti had his biggest year on streaming platforms in his entire career this year without putting out any album, with 6 billion streams, which was like ridiculous. Yeah. He was headlining all the big shows. I saw him personally at Complex Con. He was at multiple Rolling Loud shows. And he has like this iconic rollout that regardless, like the fact that he's only put out 6 or 7 songs this year, it doesn't matter because everyone's still watching, or like, his audience and like a lot of other people are still watching. Mm-hmm. But the big thing that comes into play there where he says, they can't put me no genre, baby, because I changed the game. He has sound diversity in almost every single one of his projects. So he opens with self-titled. It's like kind of relaxed. It's like the iconic, like, Cash Cardi, everyone calls him. A lot of ad-libs, kind of, just like the 2017 SoundCloud style. And then, Dial It, switched it up a little bit. Beats are a little more intense. Whole Lot of Red had everyone like turning heads because he was meshing this punk sound with hip hop that no one had, really done before at that high of a level. And so far, all of the songs he's put out, he's got Kanye executive producing his upcoming album, I Am Music. And again, it's completely different. And so like that bar where he talks about not being able to put in a genre, I just thought that was like really cool, whatever.
Yeah.
Number 2 comes off of Ratata by Tyler, the Creator, off of Chromacopia. So he says, was really odd future, all them other brothers whacked out, the biggest out the city after Kenny, that's a fact now. So he's LA grown, same city as Kendrick. He's had a lot of success with Flogna, his own personal festival, a lot of attendance this year, big names performing. We saw that like him, Kendrick, and Baby Keem have pretty good friendship throughout like the Hillbillies video. They definitely support each other. He popped out at the Juneteenth show that Kendrick did amongst the beef. And honestly, he's had an insane album run. And that's like kind of his big claim to fame is he's like, dude, early on I was like weird, experimental. I was making these like albums that everyone was kind of like cringing at, like, why are you doing this? And no one really gave him his flowers or his credit. And now, like, I mean, you really think about it, he kind of is like aside from Kendrick, like out of LA, like he's just that guy, and he's like super super popular again, headlining a lot of stuff, and just like everyone in terms of like people in the rap game like love him, like respectable people like Jay-Z, Andre 3000, like everyone loves Tyler. And then lastly, we're kind of doubling up here. I gave it my number 1 just because of how like massive the beef was like halfway through the year. But it was also just that same bar from Like That. I included the first part too because I love the bar when he says, so it's Kendrick off of Like That, and he says, your best work is a light pack, Prince outlive Mike Jack. And then he says, for all your dogs getting buried, there's a K with all these nines, he gonna see Pet Cemetery. Drake, throughout like the back half of his career, as he's gotten more and more popular, he has made countless references in music videos, on songs like Tootsie Slide, First Person Shooter, Over, and Don't Matter to Me. He actually got a feature. He wants the Michael Jackson comparison so bad. And this is like a little bit of bias for me. I think that's like hella corny. I don't think anyone touches Michael Jackson personally. But
I agree with you there.
On For All the Dogs, he obviously talks about the For All the Dogs. That's like the reference, the K with all these nines. But in a bigger sense, he's just, kind of saying like, you want to be Michael Jackson so bad, but like, Prince outlived Mike Jackson. It's just like a clever jab, I guess.
Yeah,
so that was my number 1.
Well, I mean, that's the only bar we had overlap. J-Mac only had one winner.
And that's a great choice.
It's a good bar. Do we feel like that's the one we pump up to our winner, or do we give it to a few co-winners in this one?
I'm down for it to be the one.
I think, I don't know, it's, people like to put, like, they like to frame anything, like, just to kind of benefit their view. But, Kendrick's dropping music again. Regardless if you want to say, oh, yeah, you can thank Drake for that, man. You can thank Drake that Kendrick's actually dropping music. But, like, he's putting out music. Yeah. It's good music, and it's like been super entertaining to watch. He's headlining the Super Bowl. He's doing his tour with SZA. Like we got motion. So those K-Dot fans are getting fed. And that's kind of like what started it. That's really what started it all. That bar right there. So I'm rocking with that as number 1.
All right. I say we go for it. I mean, it's hard to deny the man. Truthfully, he gets closer and closer to who I consider the greatest rapper of all time. Yeah. The more I hear music from him, and so
I already do.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to. It's really hard not to. I say we go for it. Asher, thanks so much for joining us. We always appreciate having you on. Hopefully, I hear the weekend's dropping soon. Maybe we'll have some more content.
January 24th. I'll see y'all then. January 24th.
All right, we're looking forward to it.
We're in.
All right, take care.
All right, catch y'all next time.
Alrighty, here to help us present our next category, which is Best Album Production of the Year. We have one of our favorite guests. It's been too long since we did an episode with him, though. Jonah is in the building. Jonah, thanks for joining us. We're super stoked to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
Cool. All right. Well, how we do things around here is we're going to jump into a couple of our individual picks for album production. If it's all right with you, I'll jump in and start us, and then we'll move over to J-Mac,
Sweet.
and then we'll let you finish us off, and we'll see who we're feeling good about as far as album instrumentals and production this year. This is a category that I am a little bit of a snob about. I know we've talked a while ago about cinematography, that like I'm kind of a cinematography, camera work, movie snob. This is my music snob category. I feel like I'm very particular about my album production. But there was so many this year that I just loved. It was really hard for me to narrow these down to just a couple. For my 2 nominees, one of them I did have to give it, even though it's a new album, I had to give it to GNX, Kendrick Lamar. The West Coast production is fantastic. I do have some gripes with the album overall that I voiced on our episode reviewing it, but production-wise, nearly flawless. Like, as far as I can see, I love everything on there. Hey Now is such an underrated beat off that project. But moving forward, an album that I know is one of J-Mac's personal favorites. It is Metro Boomin and Future's We Don't Trust You. The diversity of production styles on there, hearing Metro go more in the trap lane was fantastic. A little bit different from what he's been doing the past few years. Overall, I think Metro killed it on the beats, and I really love that aspect of the album. But my overall winner went in a different direction this year than those 2 picks. Nonetheless, an artist that I've really grown to love their production a lot over the last few years. It is JPEG Mafia's I Lay Down My Life For You. The hip-hop, rock, blues, rap, all the infusion, it just worked so well together. Yeah. I found myself just encapsulated in every beat that he put on that project. And whereas I felt like there were some rough spots in Scaring the Hose last year that he produced, I felt like those were polished out this year, and I didn't have any of those complaints. So that's my personal pick for best album production this year. But let me turn the floor over to you, J-Mac.
Solid choice. It's that one's so it's just so different.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
So like, while I do appreciate and respect JPEG for that kind of a production going in his own lane, there are just times where I'm like, I just can't get like behind this, and that's okay.
Fair enough.
Like it's just hard sometimes. Yeah. So I will agree with one of them. GNX, Kendrick Lamar. Like you said, nearly flawless. It's just so high energy, very bumpy, very groovy, and then like you got your ones like Luther where it's a little slowed down, but you're still vibing, you're still bobbing your head. Phenomenal album. One that I wouldn't be surprised if it gets overlooked just in general.
Yeah.
But when it comes to production, The Force, LL Cool J,
yeah,
I think super underrated when it comes to the production side. I think kind of the same thing with Kendrick's album. It's super bumpy, it's super groovy. I loved it top to bottom when it came to a production side. I guess I should have said my winner. I'm doing a little different, I guess. The third person I'm mentioning is Hearthstone Psycho, Don Toliver.
Okay.
I do like the hard rock, the metal, the punk aspects of this album. It's different than what he's usually doing.
Right.
But it worked, and I love the guitar instrumentals, the electric guitar. I think he nailed it. My winner does go to Kendrick Lamar, though, GNX, just because I do feel that it's like just about flawless. So
yeah. Hard to complain there.
Yeah.
Hard to complain.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy because I was gonna include JPEG's Mafia, his newest project, but I was like, no, that wouldn't. That's not gonna be fair, you know. And I did listen to GNX. And here's why I also didn't include JPEG Mafia's newest project. Although I loved it, I remember walking away from Scaring the Hose with a lot of save tracks. Mm-hmm. Like I really appreciate the creativity. One of my favorite tracks off that one was Garbage Pail Kids. Just the most disgusting, like crazy production. And I think like as a collab project, it was JPEG Mafia and
Danny
who
Brown.
else? Danny Brown. just, I mean, them together was absolutely unreal. Yeah. GNX, I think, deserves a lot of praise. I think, you know, you could definitely tell Kendrick is definitely like taking a lot from the hit of They Not Like Us and really like incorporating that and really fleshing that out in a full project. I mean, it's something to be said about that. There, to be honest, for this year, there was a lot of honorable mentions. I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy named Quadeca. Incredible producer. Yeah. There's quite a few, but I really had to limit it down. My one like honorable mention is, surprisingly, Andy Mineo came out with a project this year that he could only release on YouTube because all of the beats are like taking from pretty popular tracks in like late 90s, early 2000s, really remixing that. Really impressive stuff like coming from him, not the type of stuff you would expect to come from an artist like Andy Mineo, but really, really impressive from a production standpoint. I think if I had to choose top three, my third choice would probably have to be Timeless by K Tronada. Okay. It's like a 2-disc album where he's just laying down some funky beats, got some crazy collaborations with huge artists like you've got Childish Gambino on there, you've got Anderson .Paak, you've got oh my god, Pink Pantheress, a lot of different. If you haven't heard that album, the only reason why it's not like top tier for me is because a lot of the beats themselves, not the instrumental, but the actual drums, tend to start getting a little bit repetitive after the first couple of tracks. But really impressive nonetheless. I definitely recommend checking that out. Second for me has got to be an album called Glimmer of God by, I think it's John Dawson. Really doing an excellent job at mixing these like analog instrumentals of like really heavy strings sounding really acoustic, but also some like hard hitting 808s and different electronic elements to that too. A really eclectic album. Like it's not necessarily a consistent sound, but every song is a banger in its own right. My favorite song off that one would probably have to be Die For Me, and it's featuring Lil Yachty. Really great track. I recommend checking that out. For me, best production of the year has to go to Mick Gee, and with his album 2-Star and the Dream Police. There is not a single track off that album that I don't think is straight heat. Like, it's a different vibe, definitely a lot more mellow, but really like got some chaotic elements and almost like this super soothing throwback to like an 80s style, but modernizing it for the modern generation. And like, there is not a single song that doesn't just like get you in your feels, man. So that's my top three choices right there.
Wow. Super cool. A very diverse palette, I feel like, between the three of us, which is always fun and definitely one of the whole purposes of doing an award show style episode like this, to show some different love to different projects that we find enjoyable. But it does feel like especially with our top picks, we all went in very different directions. I did include Kendrick Lamar on my list, obviously, which you know could pull us towards that one as a winner. But I don't know. What do you think, Jonah? I feel like we might have to go co-winners on this category.
Co-winners. I'm
down
for it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the fact that GNX was in the topic of conversation for all three of us, like, even if it wasn't on our top three list, or if it was and just didn't make it to like that top position, like it was, that album as a whole was in the conversation for all of us. But I mean, I think like co-winner sounds great too. I mean, it's like I'm saying, it's really a hard year to pick like for best production.
Absolutely agreed.
But yeah.
All right. Well, we might have to go co-winners here because I think there's just too many great projects, like we said, to just give it to one singular album and let that be our end all be all. Right. There's too much good music out there.
People are in their bag this year.
Yeah, for real. Well, Jonah, thank you so much for joining us with this category.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we have some fun, exciting stuff, and we'll get to have you back here soon in the future. So,
for sure.
We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Like I said, it's always an honor to be here, and I thank you so much for including me in this episode.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Alrighty, we are back again with a couple more categories, our last two here. Thank you again to our guests for joining us. We always love having those guys on here.
Absolutely.
But to move into these last two categories, big year for this category, I feel like. Best feature.
It's tough.
It is tough. There was so many for me to consider. My first honorable mention here is one of my personal favorite artists just over their career. It's Bruce Springsteen off of the track Sandpaper with Zach Bryan from earlier this year. I thought Bruce Springsteen sounded great. I thought the writing was fantastic on his verse and his performance. Loved hearing him on a track like that, and ultimately I thought it was really well performed.
Yeah.
Next up, for another honorable mention, very different direction.
Yeah.
I went with Big Sean off of Toby from the Eminem
Wow.
album.
It's because he didn't say since Toby got bit by a spider, I got bit by a goat.
But I thought lyrically he sounded so fantastic. Energy-wise, he sounded fantastic. He just brought a whole different element to that whole album, it felt like, for me. Like, in listening to it in the context of the album, hearing him do that was crazy. Really loved what I heard there. But there was one feature that just did something entirely... turned the whole year on its head, really. I had to go with Kendrick Lamar on Like That.
Yeah.
I couldn't really go away from that. It was too big of a feature moment.
Yeah.
You did go away from it, it looks like.
So my first honorable mention, we'll get into it.
Okay.
Because I'm torn. The first one I can say is somebody that I was very impressed with on this album, Halsey, Take a Bow on Jelly Roll's album.
Yeah, sounded pretty solid.
I didn't expect it. The first time I listened to it, I was like, odd pairing, odd sounding. Then they started hitting the harmonies. I was like, hold on, gave it another listen, and I love it. I think they killed that song together. Definitely one of my favorites. See, this is where I'm torn.
Okay.
Because you got to go Kendrick, right?
Sure.
You can't leave that out of best feature. Yeah.
It's hard not to, I'll say that.
If you don't, you're wrong. It's one of those. You have to add in there. But it's
Let's start here. Are you just trying to be different, or do you actually have one that you feel like is as good as it?
I think no. So I think the problem is because it is everyone's gonna choose it, right? Like, yes, it's the obvious choice.
Sure.
Another one that I genuinely love, and I think it was cool to use. It's a double, and I'll explain it. Daylight and Ab-Soul on Pie. They're doing this back and forth, like, to split the song in half. Daylight and Ab-Soul are going back and forth. I have a little bit more, like, appreciation for them because, like, I've watched like their battle raps and then, like, messing around and things like that. So to see it with J. Cole, that's why. I'm a little torn.
Genre-wise, the track is a little more up your personal avenue as well.
Right. But I still, I feel obligated to give it to Kendrick. And I'm not mad at it either.
Yeah.
Like, I do think Kendrick deserves it. I think it was the best feature of the year just because of, like you said, what we got from it.
Yeah.
But I wish he did it at the same time because I love their part.
Yeah.
But Kendrick wins it.
Okay.
It's easy as that. But it wasn't easy.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Kendrick Lamar taking home the Best Feature Award. Last category here, always a fun one.
Yep.
Never gets enough love.
Never.
They say, maybe it's because people say don't judge a book by its cover. But
we
there's so
all
many
do.
there's so many times where I literally will give an album a chance or not by its album cover. Best album art is our next category here. Some really cool ones this year. A lot that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
One that I had to shout out was Hearthstone Psycho, Don Toliver. I think the cover is sick. The flag, the bike, the leather vest, super cool. It really sets the tone for what you're about to listen to. Felt like that played into it really well. Another one, another one that was just like, every time I look at it, I'm like blown away. Like, is this actually like a thing, or is this like, how was this put together? Alligator Bites Never Heal by Dochi. I think it's so cool. The white alligator, like the albino alligator, super cool. Like incorporation there.
Yeah.
Every time I see that, I'm like, okay, how did we put this together? Like, is this fake? It's got to be fake. Anyways, thought that one was super cool. But the coolest one, I really, before I even heard the album, almost considered buying the vinyl just for how cool the album cover is. F1 Trillion by Post Malone.
Wow.
The art, I think, is super cool, super interesting. Yeah. It looks like, I'm not like a big modern art guy, but I feel like I would see that in like a modern art museum in a photography section, and I'd be like, that's sick.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. Great picks. I don't know why, but when I was doing this section, totally forgot about Don Toliver. That's a great choice.
Yeah.
It really is. The first one I'm going to do, it's because it's funny to me. It's so funny. Bando Stone in the New World. Why is he holding a chicken? And why is he so confused? Like, I get it, but what does the chicken have to do with it?
It's a good one. It's funny.
It's just funny.
Yeah.
Number 2, I like the art style of this one. Ultra 85.
Yeah.
I think it's simple. I think it's cool. I think that's what I expect when I think Ultra 85. I feel like, and this might be personally, but like what he did, I saw it. I was like, yeah, that's Ultra 85.
That's the one.
That's it.
I've never even heard the album, but I know it. I know it from the build-up. I know this is what it was supposed to be. Yeah, it's what I was picturing.
Had to be a robot.
Yeah.
Dude, alligators bite heel is nuts.
It's so cool.
It's so dope. That's my number 1.
Yeah.
Because it's another one that's just so simple, but like, it's like Donald Glover holding a chicken, but it's an albino alligator.
And you're like, sick.
Yeah. That's
yeah. That's all. Enough said.
Enough
yeah.
said.
I will say, with despite how high I have that album cover personally, I am going to say I think we should go co-winners here because of how much I personally like
and that's fair.
The Post Malone
one.
But I think effectively that wraps up this year's award show.
We did it.
We did it. If you've stuck around this long, listen to all the categories. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
We're too long-winded, we know, but you're here, so you obviously cared enough to at least listen this far.
And hey, at least appreciate that we've like learned from this past almost 2 years to keep the episodes short.
Yeah,
like
we're trying our best.
Right, we
really
used to be like an hour long each episode.
Yeah,
now it's like 30. So we're trying.
Well, on that note, I think that effectively also wraps up 2024 for us.
We're done with it.
We've got some fun, cool stuff in the works to kick off 2025.
Yes, we did.
So stay tuned for that. To our guests again, thank you for joining us. For those that listen this year, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Feel free to let us know what other stuff we should be looking into. And if you have any particular feelings about specific songs, artists, albums we missed for these categories, go ahead and drop us a comment.
Yeah. Roast us, hate us, love us.
It's all the same to me.
Yeah.
Farewell. Until next year. We'll see you next year.
See you.